Haunted Hotel Room 222. The rain pounded against the windshield of my car, each droplet a resounding tap against the glass, echoing in the silence of the deserted road. The GPS had led me astray again, or so I thought, as I squinted at the map on my phone, trying to find my way back to the main highway. It was late, far too late to be driving in the middle of nowhere. The moon was hidden behind a shroud of storm clouds, and the only light came from the occasional flash of lightning, illuminating the dark landscape in brief, eerie bursts. After what felt like an eternity of driving through the night, I finally saw a flicker of light in the distance. As I approached, the faint outline of a building emerged from the darkness. A neon sign buzzed and flickered, the Wayfarer Inn. Relieved to have found some semblance of civilization, I pulled into the gravel parking lot, the tires crunching loudly as I came to a stop. The inn looked like something out of an old horror movie. It was a 2-story structure with peeling paint and sagging eaves, but the light in the windows offered a promise of warmth and shelter. I grabbed my suitcase and dashed through the rain to the entrance, the cold droplets soaking through my clothes. Inside, the inn was surprisingly well kept, though it had an unmistakably vintage feel. The reception desk was manned by an elderly woman with a kind smile, her white hair pulled back into a neat bun. "Good evening," she greeted me. "Looking for a room for the night?" "Yes, please," I replied, trying to shake off the chill from the rain. "Just one night." She nodded and handed me a brass key attached to a worn leather fob. "Room 222, she said, her smile faltering slightly. "Enjoy your stay." I took the key and headed up the creaky wooden staircase to the second floor. The hallway was dimly lit, the wallpaper a faded floral pattern that must have been fashionable decades ago. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I reached room 222 and unlocked the door, stepping into the room with a sigh of relief. The room was small but cozy, with a single bed, a nightstand, and a dresser. A large window overlooked the parking lot, and I could hear the rain pattering against the glass. I set my suitcase down and flopped onto the bed, exhausted. As I lay there, my mind wandered, and I found myself thinking about the old woman at the front desk. There had been something strange about her, something unsettling in the way her smile had faded when she mentioned the room number. Shrugging off my unease, I got up to take a shower, hoping to wash away the stress of the day. The bathroom was clean but old-fashioned, with a clawfoot tub and a rusty mirror. As I stood under the hot spray, I felt the tension in my muscles begin to melt away. After my shower, I changed into my pajamas and climbed into bed. The sheets were cool and crisp, and despite the storm raging outside, I felt a sense of calm. I closed my eyes and let myself drift off to sleep. It must have been hours later when I awoke with a start. The room was pitch black, and for a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then, the events of the evening came rushing back. I lay still, listening to the rain and the occasional rumble of thunder. But there was something else, a soft, almost imperceptible sound, a whispering. I sat up, straining to hear. The whispers seemed to be coming from the corner of the room, near the window. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached for the bedside lamp and flicked it on. The room was empty, just as it had been when I went to bed. The whispers stopped the moment the light came on. "Just my imagination," I muttered, trying to reassure myself. I turned the light off and lay back down. But sleep was elusive. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Hours seemed to crawl by, each minute dragging into the next. At some point, I must have dozed off again, because the next thing I knew, I was waking up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was still dark outside, but the rain had stopped. I checked the time, 3:33 a.m. Groggy and disoriented, I answered the call without checking the caller ID. "Hello?" I croaked. "Get out of the room." The voice on the other end was distorted, as if it were being transmitted through a broken speaker. "Get out now, before it's too late." I sat up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Who is this?" "Leave room 222. You have to leave." The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, my heart racing. Who had called me? And how did they know I was in room 222? Panic set in, and I jumped out of bed, my mind racing. I grabbed my suitcase and threw my clothes inside haphazardly. As I was about to leave, the whispers started again, louder this time, insistent. The temperature in the room plummeted, and my breath came out in visible puffs. I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. I pulled and twisted, but it was as if the door was locked from the outside. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening, and I could feel a presence closing in around me. Desperate, I ran to the window and tried to open it, but it was stuck. I pounded on the glass, hoping to break it, but it wouldn't give. The whispers were now a chorus of voices, overlapping and echoing, filling my mind with an overwhelming sense of dread. Suddenly, the room went silent. The whispers stopped, and the temperature returned to normal. I stood there panting, my hands trembling. The door to the room slowly creaked open, revealing the dark hallway beyond. I didn't wait to see what was happening. I grabbed my suitcase and bolted out of the room, not looking back. As I ran down the hallway, I heard the whispers again, fainter now, as if they were coming from a great distance. I reached the stairs and practically flew down them, bursting into the lobby, where the elderly woman was still at the desk. "What's wrong?" she asked, her eyes wide with concern. I need to leave," I stammered. "Something's wrong with that room." She sighed and shook her head. "I'm so sorry, dear. I hoped it wouldn't come to this." "What do you mean?" I demanded. "Room 2022. It's haunted," she admitted. "We've had other guests report strange occurrences, but nothing this severe. We usually close it off, but with the storm, we had no other rooms available." I stared at her in disbelief. "Haunted? By what?" She looked down, her expression sad. "There was an incident many years ago. A guest died in that room under mysterious circumstances. Since then, strange things have happened to anyone who stays there." "Why didn't you warn me?" I asked, anger and fear bubbling up inside me. "I didn't think it would be this bad," she said quietly. "I'm truly sorry. Here, let me refund your stay and find you another place to spend the night." I accepted her offer, though it did little to calm my nerves. As I left the inn and drove away, the first light of dawn began to break through the clouds. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the inn growing smaller in the distance. A shiver ran down my spine as I recalled the whispers and the cold presence in the room. Weeks passed, and I tried to put the experience behind me, but every night I found myself waking up at 3:33 a.m., the memory of the whispers still fresh in my mind. I did some research and found stories of other people who had stayed in room 222, each with their own terrifying tale. Some claimed to have seen apparitions, others spoke of hearing voices, but all had one thing in common. They left the room with a deep, lingering fear. I contacted a paranormal investigator, hoping to get some answers. We met at a coffee shop and I recounted my experience. He listened intently, nodding occasionally, Room 222 is known among those of us in the field, he said. It's a hotspot for paranormal activity. The incident the innkeeper mentioned was just the beginning. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of strange occurrences, all linked to that room. What can I do? I asked. I can't keep waking up like this. He thought for a moment. Sometimes, acknowledging the presence can help. Spirits often seek recognition or closure. If you can, go back to the inn and confront whatever is in that room. It might give you the peace you need. The thought of returning to the Wayfarer Inn filled me with dread, but I knew he was right. I couldn't live in fear forever. A few days later, I made the journey back. Arriving at the inn just as the sun was setting, the elderly woman at the desk looked surprised to see me. "You're back," she said. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I nodded. "I need to." She handed me the key to room 222, her hand trembling. "Good luck," she whispered. I made my way up the stairs, the familiar creaks and groans of the old wood sending chills down my spine. I reached the door to room 222 and took a deep breath before unlocking it and stepping inside. The room looked just as it had before, but there was an oppressive atmosphere, as if the very air was charged with energy. I set my suitcase down and took a seat on the bed, waiting. Hours passed, and nothing happened. I began to wonder if I had imagined the whole thing. But then, just as the clock struck 3:33 a.m., the temperature plummeted and the whispers began anew. I stood up, my heart pounding. "Who are you?" I called out. "What do you want?" The whispers grew louder, more insistent, but I couldn't make out any words. I closed my eyes, trying to focus. "Please," I said. "If you need something, tell me." There was a sudden silence, and then a single word, clear and distinct. "Help." I opened my eyes, and there in the corner of the room stood a figure. It was a man, his form translucent and shimmering. His eyes were filled with a deep sadness. "What happened to you?" I asked, my voice trembling. He pointed to the window, and I saw it now, a faint outline of a noose hanging from the ceiling. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This man had taken his own life in this room, and his spirit had been trapped here ever since. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "How can I help you?" He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Forgive." Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. "I forgive you," I said. "I forgive you for whatever happened. Please find peace." The man's form flickered, and then, with a soft sigh, he vanished. The temperature in the room returned to normal, and the oppressive feeling lifted. I knew then that he had found the closure he needed. I left the Wayfarer Inn that morning, feeling a sense of relief. The nightmare stopped, and I no longer woke up at 3:33 a.m., but I never forgot the man in room 222, or the lesson I learned about the lingering power of unresolved grief. If you ever find yourself at the Wayfarer Inn, remember this story. Room 222 may seem like just another room, but it holds the echoes of a tragic past, and if you listen closely, you might hear the whispers of a spirit seeking peace. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more chilling tales. Sweet dreams, and beware of the shadows.